he said that the agent guy had a face like a Ferengi. And what is Ferengi like about this guy's face? He does not look like a Ferengi. What is he talking about? Can you imagine if your captain started saying stuff like that? Like, you would bring it up with the chief medical officer that you thought there might be something wrong with the captain. At first glance, this would seem to make sense, but on closer inspection, it kind of doesn't. You see, this explanation is implying that we are in the past of an alternate future. However, we should not be, because we were technically before the events of the quote-unquote timeline split. You see, we've been sent to the past before the event that changes the future into the bad future we've seen in the second episode of Picard Season 2. So what this is implying is that if we go to the past of the bad future, we're technically in a different past from our own past, confirming that this show actually takes place literally in a different timeline, which means our characters are trying to restore the future of an alternate timeline from their own. However, you also have to contend with the fact that Guinan actually does have awareness of alternate timelines, because in the episode Yesterday's Enterprise, we see Guinan aware of a timeline split and aware that she is existing in an incorrect timeline. What I'm trying to say is, this is why you do not do time travel episodes. Avoid it like the plague. It just causes problems, so don't do it. Okay, this is Picard, Season 2, Episode 4, The Watcher. Episode before this was Assimilation, and now we got Watching. Who's watching? Are you watching this show? If I wasn't reviewing them, I wouldn't be watching them, I'll tell you that right now. This one just confirms my suspicions that we're going back into the desolate hellscape of Season 1 style of Picard. I don't know why they wanted to tease me the first episode. I don't understand what the value of that is. I think they're just telling us that, listen, we write what's in our hearts, and what's in our hearts is pain and misery and fighting. And we want to put that in the show. We were wrong with Season 1, so we'll throw you a bone. We're going to at least make this season take place in a different time frame so we can justify all the nonsense we want to put in. That's what I'm getting out of this, okay? It's just obvious now. This episode, it's not pointless, it's not useless. The worst of episodes are useless and violent and nasty. This one's just violent, nasty, but at least moves the plot forward. At the very least, they're better at stringing me along this season than they were last season. Last season, you'd be forgiven for falling asleep. At least this one, you're not falling asleep because somebody's slapping on your head constantly. You know? Fall asleep from boredom, or basically go into a coma from being beat over the head so much. Pick your poison, okay? This episode, if you can't tell, I sincerely believe it's worse than the last one. And I may go so far as to say that every episode of this season of Picard was worse than the one before it. Kind of alarming. It's bad to have a downwards trend this early. Usually if you're trying to trick reviewers on mainstream review sites, you make the first few episodes pretty good, because then they trail off and forget about what happens later. Not so with this. We are just going straight into the nightmare. Welcome to Picard again, baby. Hold on. Is there something on my freaking thing here? Okay, usually if something insane happens like that, we need to report it. Okay, because you have no idea what goes on around here in space. But I guess it was nothing. I guess we're safe. Everybody's okay. Back to the review. This episode has an A, a B, a C, and a D plot, if you can believe it. Also, if you would forgive me, I'd like to consider the Picard plot the A plot. So we're going to get into that one first. The show is called Picard, is it not? So, where we left off, La Serena is still crash-landed outside Chateau Picard, and holy crap, nobody has thought to come and inspect the crash landing. Yeah, UFO just landed outside. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's just a UFO. In France. Who cares? Don't worry about it, dude. Don't worry about it. It's just a UFO. Go back to doing what you were doing. It's nothing. It's nothing. Don't go check it out. Don't look. And they even... Picard turns on the ship's cloaking device. He says, "Oh, Confederation ships have had a few upgrades. Computer, engage cloaking device." And now, dear viewer, you're thinking, hold on. So we were worried about getting caught by people, were we? Yeah, we did think people were going to come inspect us. Now when they get here, they're going to find an invisible hard object that they can't push through. What's this thing? I can't even see it, but I can feel it. Do you guys see that huge debris field there? Kind of like a runway? Like something landed here from space? But if we just follow that trail of where it looked like it crash landed, we should find something at the end, right? And whoa, something is hard, but I can't see it. Holy cow, we'd better report this to the police. So the cloak isn't going to help. I don't like when a review sounds like it's just nitpicking over logical inconsistencies. I like when a review tries to tackle the big picture, but there's only so much I can handle. Like, I'm very good at overlooking things, usually. As you know, I'm surprisingly lenient with a lot of these shows. And it's just getting... This episode, you're starting... The writers are starting to take me for a fool. Okay, they're starting to treat me like I'm 5 years old or haven't seen Star Trek before, which is bizarre because this episode has a lot of deep cut references to the past. How can you... God dang, it's so hard to review this without getting ahead of myself. I'll try not to. Back on topic. Jurati is cold. Ugh, what are we gonna do? Ship systems are down and we don't got the heat. But we got the cloak. And Jurati's freezing and Picard says, "Let's get you somewhere warm." So they get off the La Serena and they go to Chateau Picard. And it's destroyed and abandoned. And in this time period, nobody lives there. And you're thinking, whoa. Man, the layers of abstraction we had to put on Chateau Picard to make this make sense. I mean, yeah, it explains some things, but it gives you answers to questions I wouldn't deign to ask, because it wasn't important, and it's just more minutia. You don't create a story by needling into past details into an infinite degree. Okay? We need new things. And people have the gall to say that people who complain about New Trek don't want anything new. My dude, it's been the same thing since 2009. That was a while ago. On Earth. Here it's way past 2009. But we won't get into that. I'm sure you get my point. They go to Chateau Picard. It's abandoned because Nazis use this as a base of operations, and then the original occupants hid in the UK or Britain or something, and then they didn't come back until later, which explains why Picard doesn't have a French accent. So Chateau Picard was inhabited by Picards. Abandoned in World War II. They came back to it centuries later. It burned down off-screen. It was repaired exactly as it was supposedly off-screen. Picard went back to it, and then went back in time to after it was abandoned. That's Chateau Picard. I mean, yeah, these things happen, but do we need this complexity? It feels like the writing here feels like we wanted something to happen, and then we came up with excuses for why it could happen. Okay. We're letting the idea be the father of the thought. We're letting the wish be the father of the thought, I should say. We wished for this. Let's make it so. And writing contrivances be damned. Let's just go through with it. You know? It's odd. We went to Chateau Picard. Jurati had messed around with an abacus, had took out a bottle of liquor, and then picked out some book, and they all say 15 on them somewhere. Look at the abacus, she moved 15 blocks on it. 15 here, 15 there. And you probably think what I was thinking. Oh, 15. What of it? Well, no, not really. Jurati stole information from the Borg Queen last episode, and this is apparently some type of secret information to complete the universe that she stole from the Borg Queen, trying to work its way to the surface in an abstract way by telling them the number 15. So what's it mean? 15 seconds, 15 minutes, 15 hours, 15 days? No. See, they're here on the 12th of the month that they're in, and it works out that, oh wait, they must mean the 15th of this month. So that means we have 3 days to change the future. And we're just operating off that now. We are operating off the fact that that is literally true. What if it was 15 hours? What if they left and then 15 minutes later something happens and they weren't there to see it happen? You don't know. Man, the assumptions and leaps in logic. It's, am I taking crazy pills here? What's going on? Same thing in Discovery, but I won't get into that. That's gone, and we can say goodbye to that for a while. Thank you. Back on the La Serena, they allow the Borg Queen to transport Picard where she wants Picard to go, and the Queen has all the secret information on the goings-on of this plot. The Queen is trans-temporally aware, same as Guinan in a way. We've established that, so that's okay, I guess. However, you can tell the way this episode is shot that when something goes wrong in the La Serena, they zoom in or do a cutaway to the Borg's face. So now I'm thinking, like, the Borg Queen is actually the one causing problems in the La Serena. I think she's doing it on purpose. I think she's pulling the strings here, pulling the strings on this enormously complicated and many-limbed mannequin, making it dance around for amusement. As all of these shows are, complicated plot, but not much going on upstairs. Filled with lofty, heady dialogue, with mystery sprinkled in. As is every single piece of dialogue from the Borg Queen or Q, and I mean, these characters were wont to do that before, so it kind of makes sense, but you can tell they really like that because now they can push it to the absolute extreme and have dialogue that makes no literal sense. and people who just speak in poems, like that's supposed to move us ahead any. It doesn't, but it's so hard to review an episode when it's just awful. It's so much more difficult to get it across in a way that is concise, because it's a blur of bad, you know? It's like, and I'm fidgeting with my badge just because I'm losing my mind. Picard transports to the exact place he was a few episodes ago where he talked to Guinan, 10 Forward Avenue. Ha ha ha. He meets Guinan, but it's a young Guinan, and it doesn't look like Guinan. But he knows it's Guinan, but she doesn't know it's Picard, even though she met Picard previously. I thought I was dreaming or having a nightmare, and then I went back to watch the TNG episode Time's Arrow. You know that episode I mentioned, like, last review, and then it came back to bite me in the ass this episode, because they do kick that episode into the dirt and stomp on it. In Time's Arrow, Guinan is many centuries old. You need to understand. And Guinan has been on Earth for a long time. And in Time's Arrow, Guinan specifically tells Picard, when did we first meet? And then there's some away mission he has to go on, and she tells him, if you don't go on this away mission, we may have never met. Okay? And then he meets Guinan in like the 1800s or something. And the episode plays out as it does. I'm not going to spoil it. But just understand, Guinan is there. Guinan meets Picard then, and he comes back to the Enterprise in the future at the end, and they have a little visual mind interlock with each other to acknowledge that they remembered what had happened, and that Picard and Guinan actually met hundreds of years ago. And it is the same Guinan Picard meets in this episode, and young Guinan doesn't recognize Picard. How can... Guinan doesn't look like Guinan, but Picard recognizes Guinan. Picard looks exactly like Picard, but Guinan doesn't recognize Picard, even though Guinan had already met Picard. Are we just retconning that episode? Are we just saying that episode isn't real? Classic episode. I mean, your mileage with it may vary. I like it, but you can't say it didn't happen. Did you ever want to see Guinan aim a gun at Picard? Picard goes to the bar and Guinan aims a shotgun at him. And Guinan is an Elorian. Like, you'd think that if Guinan wanted to kill Picard, there would be some other way that Picard would never see coming, right? Elorians are like that, I don't think they're gonna just... Guinan, regardless of being an Elorian, it's just, I can't imagine Guinan. We already met Guinan before this. Guinan, and Picard needs to find the Watcher, okay? Young Guinan. I mean, Morpheus takes Neo to find the Oracle. I mean Guinan takes Picard to find the Watcher, okay? Because apparently the universe works now like it did in Men in Black, and there's just aliens everywhere, and there's alien watchdogs that make sure certain people follow their preordained destiny. Why didn't we just make it freaking 26th, 27th century temporal Cold War time Starfleet police? Why didn't we just do that? We already had people doing that. Just make it that. Once you control time, oddly, time doesn't matter to you, right? So, it's only 2400. time travel hasn't been banned yet like it was in Star Trek Discovery. So why can't... what? Why can't it just be like the fleet, like the time fleet? Like, why can't it just be the U.S.S. Relativity? Remember that? Some people are holding out hope beyond hope, that the Watcher was Braxton from the Relativity, but it wasn't. They go to this... Guinan takes Picard to this park, and... remember how in the Matrix, Agent Smith could be inside everybody, and they could just convert into Agent Smith? Well, random passerbys can convert into people who help the Watcher. That way you can't follow what the Watcher's doing. And this little girl tells Guinan that she's gonna put her boot in her face or something, and I just... why... Oh my god. These people lead Picard along to find the Watcher, and Picard walks 10 feet and says, "How much further?" You know, with his invincible robot body. Not after, again, Picard being lectured to by somebody, because this is Picard. Picard needs to be lectured to. He's lectured to the state of the current year by Guinan. Guinan is saying, look, everything is terrible, and the future is hopeless. Guinan says that to Picard. You'd think the roles would be reversed, right? Picard should look and weep in sorrow for the state of the world, and Guinan should say, listen, it's going to be alright. I'm very, very old, and I'm very, very wise, and I've seen a lot of things change since I've been here in the past few centuries. And I've seen things come and go, and I know things can change at the drop of a hat, so I don't need to worry, because I'm Guinan, and I'm very wise like that. But no, Guinan is just about ready to leave the Earth in disgust, and and we know it's bullshit because we've seen the future. But Guinan is smarter than we are because she's Guinan. Guinan was such a fun character in TNG because it was such a great way to take a break from the show and to talk to a character who was ethereal and godlike without being mean in any way. Like the inverse Q. Like the wise sage character who was not subtly violent and subtly sometimes the villain like Q was. She was a bedrock that you could rest on, that you could just go and always have a good time talking to Guinan. And now it's ruined. But I thought Guinan looked cool. I thought her outfit was cool, and her hair was cool, and the dog was cool, and I thought just the aura around Guinan was cool in this episode. That's about it, really. I mean, we can sit here all day and break this apart for why this is ridiculous, but I'm just gonna leave it there. Picard finds the Watcher. The Watcher is Laris. Oh my god, the Watcher is Laris! That Romulan woman from the first bit. And she takes Picard away in a square cloud of smoke. Like it's magic. Oh my gosh, that's not even the craziest thing, I don't think. Because in our B plot, we have Jurati being left behind on the freaking La Serena alone with the Borg Queen. And we know the Borg Queen is trying to assimilate her. It is obvious. Picard warned us. Picard said, do not assimilate with the Borg Queen. We did it anyway, and now we're leaving her alone with the Borg Queen so something horrible can happen. And the entire time in the background, the Borg Queen is trying to subtly brain seduce Jurati into hooking herself back up to the Borg Queen. How dumb do you have to be for this to work on you? How dumb is Jurati? How dumb is Picard? How dumb is Rios? This is an idiot plot. It is a plot that can only function if every character is idiotic. This plot can only function if every single person in it has not been through Starfleet. I refuse to believe that if you've gone through the Academy, you would think like this. It doesn't make any goddamn sense. Raffi is a complete loose cannon. Raffi belongs in the brig for what's going on here. Raffi and Seven in our C plot are trying to find Rios. Okay, so they talk to this. They go to the police station and discover, with the help of a very nice gentleman who assists them in their endeavor to find Rios. He says that, listen, this Rios guy you're trying to find, you can't find him at the police station because the police system and the immigration control system are two different systems, and you need to find immigration control information before he gets deported. Okay, so that was good, but what ensues is like this cool chase scene where Seven and Raffi are expertly driving and swerving in and out of traffic and driving like stunt drivers, and it's so cool, and they're getting away from the police. And wait a minute, how is Seven driving like a stunt driver? Raffi says, you can pilot a starship, but you can't pilot this. Well, no, Raffi. No, she can't. It's totally different. It is totally different driving a car than it is from piloting a starship. It's totally not the same thing. All Seven had to say was that when she was on Voyager, she used to go on holodeck trips with Tom Paris, and she would drive around, and that's how she learned to drive. That's all we needed to put in the show. That's all we needed. That's all we need. How can we mess this up and have so many other deep cuts that I will get into? References do not make the show. This is, if you ever needed evidence that references do not make a show, this is it. They're driving around looking for Rios. Meanwhile, Jurati gets the transporter working anyway. So why didn't they just stay still? They could have just stayed where they were and then got where they had to go and then not had to go drive around anyway. So, wow, we achieved exactly the same thing we were trying to achieve, except we just dangerously got involved with the law. That's what Jurati, Seven, and Raffi achieved this episode. We need to find Rios. Let's steal a cop vehicle. By the way, Raffi took her phaser. Rios didn't get to take his phaser. He got caught. Now he's being deported. But, Raffi took her phaser. Whoops, I don't know how this got here, guys. I'm just a complete monster. I took my phaser even though everybody else didn't get to take theirs. Oh well. You're specifically told before there was an implicit understanding from a commanding officer that you were not to have that weapon, and now you took the weapon. So she shoots through the car window to get in there to hack the system of the cop car, because I guess these systems are linked now. Oh, it's the 24th century. All the systems are linked. Oh, what does that mean? She uses this and she finds out where Rios is, and they drive to go find Rios, and then she admits that she had no reason to break through the window. She could have did it anyway she could have unlocked the door without breaking the window, and she broke the window for fun because she's out of her mind. That's basically what I'm getting here. And then when Jurati gets the transporter working, they just slam the brakes on the vehicle and get transported out, achieving what they were going to do anyway without the help of the vehicle. Why did we steal the vehicle? We just needed the chase scene. They just wrote it in however they could. This is disgusting. God, it just makes me shiver. Okay, so we leave that plot thread just hanging. And meanwhile, in our D plot, Rios is captured in this fenced-off area, awaiting deportation on some kind of a bus. And Rios is the captain of the Stargazer, but he has no regard for... He has no he has a serious lack in reason, philosophy, and judgment here, because he's so upset with this what is it, like this agent, I guess, who's locking them up. And he's like, just because you can put on a badge and a uniform, you think you can do this to me? And then they hit him, or tase him or something. And I was just thinking, just because you put on a uniform and a badge, you think you have the right to do something. Well, guess what? He technically does. That's how you don't have to like it, but that's how it works. The Maquis probably don't like you. Right? You're no saint. Actually, it's easy to be a saint in paradise, is it not? To quote Deep Space Nine. And he says he has a face like a Ferengi, and he doesn't. He doesn't look like a Ferengi. What am I smoking? Like, what am I seeing? He just felt the need to blurt out an alien name in 2024, just to create as much of a problem for the timeline as he can. He said that the agent guy had a face like a Ferengi, and what is Ferengi like about this guy's face? He does not look like a Ferengi. What is he talking about? You imagine if your captain started saying stuff like that, like you would bring it up with the chief medical officer that you thought there might be something wrong with the captain. I would. This is crazy. And he's pleading to get out, and he tells him his name, and he says he's Cristobal Rios, captain of the Stargazer in 2400, and he's walking around with a band of misfits, and one of them is a humanoid flesh and blood robot, and he doesn't understand how it works, and neither do we. It sounds crazy because it is goddamn crazy. It is crazy. Okay, and that's why it sounds crazy. And he says, I don't understand it, but he's a flesh and blood robot, and he's talking about Picard, and I don't understand it either. We just blurted out everything. So he's deported, I guess. And where are we ending up? Rios is Gonzo. Jurati and Seven and Raffi found Rios, but they didn't get to him in time. They just transported to where he was, and they're looking for him. Jurati is being mind jacked slowly by the Borg Queen, and it's predictable and stupid, and we knew it would happen. And Picard has been whisked away to Never Never Land by the Watcher. And we felt the need to ruin Guinan. We felt the need to further confuse the idea of Chateau Picard, although it does explain Picard's accent. That's a plus. But did I ask the question? Well, was that question worth asking? Probably not, really, in the grand scheme of things. Does the TNG episode Times Arrow work anymore? Is that episode still real? Did that happen? I mean, we've already seen in season 1 Picard look up at a holographic image of the Enterprise, the Constitution Class 1, but it was the Discovery Constitution Class 1, even though he himself had gone to a simulation of the bridge in the holodeck of the TOS Constitution Bridge. So we already have to believe that Picard is crazy, because he wasn't able to tell the difference between those two ships. So we know Picard is dumb, right? So Picard's dumb, Jurati's dumb, allowing herself to be menaced by the Borg Queen like that. Raffi and Seven are dumb because they're basically just on the warpath in the past that they can't control, or shouldn't try to, that is. and Rios just, he's mentally deficient and just says whatever he's thinking at the moment, which is not good traits for a captain. And Guinan is dumb because she can't remember Picard even though she remembers everything. And we've already set up the idea that Earth is filled with aliens before First Contact. I know that happened in Star Trek before. There's been numerous cases of stories set on Earth involving aliens, but I never liked the idea. I was never a big fan of turning Star Trek into like Men in Black. That really never sat well with me, if you know the series Men in Black. This idea that aliens are all amongst us, it's something about that always seems strange to me. It kind of took the magic out of First Contact, even though the movie First Contact has time travel in it, conveniently. At the very end, we have a scene with Q sitting at a table somewhere outside Roy Kirk Plaza. If you don't know Roy Kirk, he was the character who designed the Nomad probe from TOS. No spoilers in the episode, but that's what that is. You can hear someone talking about, or it's on the newspaper, I think, I can't remember, that he's reading, talking about transparent aluminum. Another reference to Star Trek 4. Another reference to Star Trek 4 in this episode would be the guy in the bus with the boombox singing along to some music, and then one of the characters says, "Can you turn that down?" He's like, "Oh, sorry," and he grabs his neck, thinking about what happened when he got attacked by Spock that time, remember, in the Voyage Home. Just go watch that movie. Just watch that and be done with it. Don't watch this. A fun reference. It made me smile. A guilty pleasure, if you will, because if you're a tall, sensible, references like this won't work on you, because it doesn't make sense, right? Because this guy apparently moved from San Francisco to LA just to be on a bus and then happened to be waylaid by people from the future for the second time in his life. What are the chances, right? It was fun. Additionally, you can read the paper that Q is looking at, and it talks about some character named Brenner, who I believed appeared in... He was a character that was in past tense, I think. Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Am I imagining that? But it says Brenner something fights unionization. And Q, as he does, I guess now, is talking directly to the audience, and he's making up some poetic horseshit about this character walking out of Roy Kirk Plaza. And you can see that he has the Europa mission patch on his jacket, and he tries to flick like this, and it doesn't work. So that's kind of an interesting twist, right? We've never seen Q not of his own volition be reduced to that of a mortal, right? We've seen that the Q Continuum characters are not completely infallible. They are prone to failure. It happens. They are not completely invincible, although they appear to be, if you watch enough Star Trek. And it's interesting now that we see Q potentially losing his powers. And it could be that Q set this story in motion thinking he would have access to these powers forever, and now he's realizing he can't fix it. So it could be that Q actually has to plead for help to Picard, and have Picard help him get back to his own future. Just sounds strange for a Q, but just imagine it. Imagine if a Q, who can be anywhere in time, and all-knowing and all-powerful, is faced with his own mortality, which is not out of the realm for the Q, and then has to have Picard save him from a timeline that he created, making Q the villain. Kind of an interesting development. He flicks his finger, it doesn't work, and I think what he was trying to do was make the Europa mission fail. Because I think that somehow, if the Europa mission is a success, it somehow causes the rise of the Confederation of Planets? Confederacy, whatever you call it? How? I don't know. Butterfly effect being what it is. Look it up. There's butterflies everywhere in this season. It makes me just want to end it all. Why is there pictures of butterflies everywhere? Butterfly effect, eh? It's a hell of a drug. So, you have married to deep-cut references that only observant people might notice. But at the same time, we're taking a classic episode and making it not canon. How do we square that circle? Like, what am I supposed to... I mean, this has happened before, but back in the day, we were decanonizing things from TOS back when they weren't sure how things were supposed to work, when we thought we were just making one TV show and that was it. And we've seen details with Earth history and First Contact being retconned, yes. But now, are we literally getting to the point where we are starting to try and retcon TNG? Somehow I think that's not going to go over well. I think that playing with previously accepted early history canon is a dangerous game. It is a dangerous game of Russian roulette you're playing, okay? And you're going to fire the trigger on that phaser, and one of these times it's not going to be set to stun, and you're going to kill the show forever, if you haven't already. I mean, I'm totally checked out. Like, I would not be watching this if not for this review. Terrible episode. It moves forward in a way that is contrived and written because the wish for a thing is the father of the idea. If that makes sense to you. It barely does to me. But then again, I just watched this show and that barely made sense to me. Musically, again, can we really compliment a show for just reusing the Jerry Goldsmith musical theme? A little sting, of the TNG, which is originally the motion picture theme. Can we really compliment that if we can just steal it because we're doing TNG stuff? Because nothing else musically really goes on. Again, I don't like the intro. I don't like hearing the little Star Trek jingle every 5 seconds. It gets old, even though I love it. Visually hideous. What can I tell you? We are in 2024. Why? 2024 is hideous. Okay? Why do I want to see it in Star Trek? I don't. Okay? Back in the day, we would resolve a plot like this in one episode and wipe our hands and be done and go back to the future. Yay, let's go. But now, every season is like one elongated episode, and it's like a slow motion train wreck. And if it's bad at the start, it's probably going to be bad at the end, because this is one long movie that they chopped up into episodes. Back in the day, if an episode was bad, you could say, hey, maybe next one will be better. Nowadays, that just ain't so. In terms of the philosophy of this episode, I do not understand what inexplicable motivation, inexplicable ideas. Why is Picard being lectured to by Guinan about things Guinan should already understand fully well? In fact, I think we swapped the script for Picard and Guinan in this episode in a few scenes. You can't lecture somebody on something that we already know is going to be fixed later. It's the age-old prequel problem, right? We know the future is going to work out, so how am I supposed to feel tension in viewing a bad past? You can't. And on top of that, before we've seen the ending anyway, we knew that this was just a machination of Q. We've seen it many times before. If an omnipotent godlike character just magically whisked you away somewhere, you'd be forgiven for thinking the whole thing is fake. And holy crap, it feels fake. It's kind of... You take somebody in the past and you do everything they can to dissolve the tension. Because we know things are supposed to work out, and we know Q did it just because he thought it would be fun. Okay? So I don't know what the moral angle of this episode was. If it takes place in 2024, can't you just turn on historical news and just watch that? Like, go to your console and just turn on, type in 2024 Earth news, history, and then call that up from the computer and just watch it. You're not saying anything bigger, right? You need to go to another planet and see a microcosm of the logical extreme of various issues, see them go head to head, present them in their best possible light, and then offer a wise but conscientious observation on it, right? That is impartial, and then at the end appeal to our better angels, if you will, appeal to our better reason. You know, that's how we used to do it. I don't know what I'm supposed to get out of this, other than seeing Rios act like an insane person. And have our supposed antagonists acting like cartoons, like Disney cartoon villains. It's not nuanced, it's not interesting, it's not compelling, it's cheesy, it's childish, it's annoying, it's nasty, it's ugly, it's dark. It's Picard. That was Star Trek Picard, The Watcher. Episode 4, Season 2. You know what? It's not as bad as Star Trek Discovery Season 4. What was the episode called? Anomaly. It wasn't as bad as Anomaly. I'm thinking just a 4. I was gonna say 3.5, but I enjoy the prospect of the Europa mission. I'm into Earth history exploration from that era, historically speaking. It's interesting to me. I like seeing the fact that Chateau Picard was abandoned for a while, explaining Picard's accent. I like that. I like the guy in the bus from the voyage home. I like the prospect of a weakened Q. You know, it's not... If not for those things, this would be like a 2. But, unforgivably, it ruins Time Zero. Classic TNG episode. I'm sorry. Like, I wish it didn't have to be that way, but... Wouldn't this episode have worked better if Picard goes back? Oh, yes, I'm at 10 Forward Avenue. Guinan's here. She'll remember me from when I was here hundreds of years ago. And then wouldn't it be better if she did? And then they hugged and then just went about their merry way. Why did we make it so Guinan didn't remember Picard just so that Guinan could have a scene where she's pointing a gun at him? Is that why we did that? That's so pathetic. It's disgusting. Why do we hate Picard? Why does Picard have to go on the Starfleet apology tour, get lectured to, get guns pointed at him, and be dragged around by kids, even though he's like 100 years old? Show some respect for this character, you know. We did in the first episode, but we just can't have it like that. We just can't do it, you know. Hopefully this is the low point, you know. Maybe next episode will be better. It won't be, but if I can just trick myself into thinking that. This episode, the review for this episode was so hard to film. It took every ounce of energy in my body to rewatch it just to get ready for this review. There's Picard. So I'm Mark, and I'm gonna go back to what I was doing before I was interrupted so sleazily by this stupid episode. See you guys in the next one.